Many of you watching are married, and at some point in your life, the loss of a spouse will impact your financial picture. You may already be a widow or a widower. How will your financial life change? What steps should you take now to protect your income during retirement? We'll talk about that next. This is Rise in Retirement. I'm Jet. He's Taco. And today we are talking about spousal income loss.
Yeah.
We deal with so many clients on a day-to-day basis. It's just one of those parts of life. And especially with the fact that we work with a lot of pre-retirees and retired people. Eventually, if you're a couple, somebody's probably going to die first.
Yeah.
And for some people, the plan doesn't change a whole lot, but for others, it changes pretty drastically. In the case that we're going to talk about today, it does kind of flip on its axis a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's important too that people understand when building a plan, you don't want to think about this, but what will happen?
Yeah.
What will your plan look like? And so that's a lot of what we'll talk about. So in today's hypothetical example, Jet, we have Karen, and that's what we're going to focus on is the widow, kind of the post-death at this
passed
point.
away.
Correct. So we have Karen, she's 67 and now widowed. They have she has $900,000 now, all in her name, post the death. Count breakdown is $620,000 in IRAs, pre-tax money, $190,000 in brokerage accounts, and $90,000 in Roth IRA. Their annual spending goal together was about $78,000 a year. So roughly $6,500 a month was the last budget that Karen has ever done.
And with her husband, that's about what they were spending.
That's what they were spending.
Live happy, live comfortably.
Correct. So they had Social Security coming in, and they had income. Excuse me. Of course, they had income. Pension income of about $2,200 a month. So with both of their Social Securities and the pension, they had a withdrawal need of $0 from their investments. They didn't have to take anything out of their investments to live off of.
Pretty good situation.
Great situation, right? Green light is what Karen and her husband were prior to him passing. Now the situation has changed. The pension that they were collecting was a single life pension on her husband only.
What does that mean? For those of you who don't have a pension, or you'll have a pension, you haven't made a decision. What is single life, joint life? Explain that.
Yeah. So there, you many times you can choose this at the time of
Commencement
of taking your pension, right? Mm-hmm. And so single life just strictly says that if it's in Bob's name, it pays out single life until Bob passes away. Does not pass on or carry on to any sort of spouse or beneficiary. Joint life, 100% joint life, for example, I won't go through all the scenarios, but 100% joint life says your named spouse can continue to collect that pension income over her lifetime or his lifetime as well, the surviving spouse, going to be a reduced amount that you're getting right from the beginning.
Yeah.
In this case, there's all multiple other scenarios there, but in their case, they chose, based on their situation, to maximize the income, take single life.
0% survivor.
This was an unexpected, passing. It wasn't like his health was bad when they elected this. So, right or wrong there, we're not going to go there of whether they made the right or wrong decision. That's not
today's topic.
That's not the topic. This is what happened, right? And so they lose the $2,200 a month. Also, you lose the lower of the two Social Security incomes. So now, as a widow, Karen is going to get $3,000 per month from Social Security, which is basically stepping up to get her spouse's benefit. She loses her smaller benefit that they were collecting. Yep. So post-death, she needs now about $3,500 a month to make up for the pension and Social Security, which is about $42,000 a year, about 4.7% withdrawal rate now on the $900,000. So a lot of changes for Karen.
Well, the biggest thing is they went from being in a surplus situation. They have income coming in from Social Security and pension to where they can spend it and it covers their lifestyle.
Right.
Like we said, green light, great situation to be in. Everyone wishes they were in a situation like that. Far fewer are actually in a situation like that in today's world, but everything just flipped on its head now because for the first time during Karen's retirement, she's in a situation where she has to live off of the portfolio that has been amassed. And we mentioned it was $900,000. Before we talk about some of the challenges that Karen is going to face, head over to riseandretirement.com, riseandretirement.com. After today's episode, if you are someone who is dealing with an income scenario like this, you've lost a spouse, or you're curious about what will my situation look like should I or my spouse pass away, what will that do? How will things change? A lot of great resources for you at riseandretirement.com. You can schedule a 30-minute consultation with an advisor. We'd be happy to talk to you about your specific scenario. So,
and Jed, I just want to add too, like one of the things that is really important for an individual when they're building an income plan is identifying how to take that pension, how to take your best Social Security claiming strategies. So these are all things that, can be resources to you as well. And I think it's really important to understand the best way for you, for your plan, for your potential surviving spouse, how to do this.
Couple of planning challenges for Karen that we want to lay out here. And the first one is just that loss of income, it seems obvious, right? She went from not needing anything to now that she needs to take a monthly distribution just to pay her bills. A couple of things I'll note here. Karen is assuming in this scenario, and many people do this, and I think many people are wrong about this, but she's assuming that she's going to need the exact same amount of monthly income after her husband passed away that they needed while he was alive.
Right.
So here's my opinion on that. For some, that might be true. We don't know what Karen is going to do now. Karen probably doesn't even know what she's going to do. It's so new.
Yeah.
She might need time to actually figure out, here's what my new lifestyle is going to look like now that he is gone.
Yeah.
So I think first thing you have to stop and think about, and maybe do a little bit of soul searching on even, and it's tough to do in the heat of that moment.
Yeah.
Which is why I often tell clients, take some time. We can use a number for now, but this is likely going to change. She's just assuming that the bills are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that in a lot of cases they don't.
Yeah. And I'd say just the shock of the death in general has somebody to where they don't want to see more change. And so if $6,500 was hitting the bank account every month, I don't want to see a change here. So let's just keep it the same. Just keep everything the same. So, loss of the shock of loss of income is planning challenge number one, which kind of goes into number two then is what you're alluding to is now you got to go through the emotional restructuring of your budget.
Yeah.
And really the financial reset of what does life look like as a widow now.
Yeah.
It's not a decision that can be made within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months. It's probably, you got to start figuring out what your purpose is. What are you going to do? Which expenses are falling off now that you don't have your spouse with you?
Which new expenses could arrive?
Correct.
What are you going to do with some of this time that you have now that you didn't have before from the perspective of, well, I always did this with my husband or my wife or this or this or this, and now that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah. So the challenge is that budget rebuild of, okay, what's this thing going to look like now moving forward in the next 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, 5 years to really start building a new plan.
Yeah. And planning challenge number 3, we're just going to call it longevity and inflation. And this is a challenge regardless of whether you've lost a spouse or not. But I think it comes into focus for Karen, specifically because before her husband passed away, the distribution was zero. They were not taking any distribution. So they were probably looking towards that required minimum distribution age that was out there in the horizon as, hey, this is the first time here a couple of years into the future where we're going to have to take money out, even if we don't need it. Now it's out of need. And they had never really thought about how long will this portfolio last? Do I have enough? Is $900,000 enough to get me a monthly paycheck from now until the end of my days? And we mentioned inflation. How will that paycheck need change, based on expenses, cost of living, all the things that could rise over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Because we said the new, if the expenses do stay the same, the new withdrawal rate's 4.7%, which you guys watch our show, they're in a good spot. She's still in a good spot, even with the loss of that income. But now planning becomes a little more important, if you will, because what could hurt you? We've talked about all the different risks that you face. Well, if her portfolio's not aligned from a risk standpoint, all of a sudden she loses a bunch of money. That 4.7 withdrawal rate goes up to 6 or 7. Now we start having some long-term concerns. The other thing that we didn't really mention, but ties into, a challenge here, is Karen wasn't super involved with the planning. Things were just good to her. They had the income, they were coming in.
She trusted her husband to handle it.
And now she is forced with you got to own this a little bit now. And, kind of goes back to the emotional side of things, where she wasn't really a major decision maker in what they chose to do with their investments. Now she's got to really trust somebody or, make the decisions on her own here.
Let's jump to strategies, and we'll go with number one. We're going to call this income segmentation. The last thing I want to see happen to Karen, let's assume that Karen and her husband were working with a financial advisor, financial planners, professional that they trusted. Karen, you already mentioned, wasn't really involved in this. She left it up to her husband, and the husband trusted the advisor. Now, the advisor didn't have to focus on income generation. So it was, primarily it was investment allocation. It was strategy. It's what are we buying? What are we selling? What's our risk tolerance? The last thing I want to see happen to Karen is for her to go back to this advisor now for help, which she should.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that advisor to go, listen, Karen, you're fine. You got $900,000. You need $3,500 a month. It's a 4.7 withdrawal rate. That's really good. Don't worry about it. We don't need to make any changes. We'll just take a monthly distribution. I'll send you the money. You'll be fine. Last thing I want to see happen to her.
Because the reality is things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
I'd much rather see her with that advisor or another advisor. If it comes to that, I'd rather see her develop a new plan that's more structured, something where she can look at the different investments that she has, call them buckets if you want, segment these investments out. Because especially for someone like Karen, who's not overly involved, not overly knowledgeable, not comfortable with this kind of thing, I think she needs to know which, it's giving these investments purpose. Which investment bucket am I drawing from? How long will that last? How much risk is associated with it? How much income can I really rely on, and for how long with said bucket?
Yep.
I think that gives her a ton of peace of mind in this new situation.
Agreed. And with building out that bucket plan, kind of the obvious that we talked about as a challenge, it's the strategy is we do have to realign the budget. We got to adjust our spending plan based on what's actually happening. What kind of fixed costs are out there now?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the variable, costs that could change, and just tie that into the income plan, at the end of the day. So we got to get the budget realigned. I know it'll take some time though for her to figure that out. And then lastly, her not being a major involved party of her plan, simplify the portfolio if it's not already simplified, right? Consolidate accounts, make sure that distribution of $3,500 a month is automated, just hitting the bank account, not anything that she's got to worry about. Create that cash flow in a really simple way of moving forward, so that we're not adding all sorts of complexities to an already emotional and just tough time.
Karen and her husband were already a green light before he passed away. She's still a green light, in my opinion. I'll give her a green light on her analysis. That light is right there in the zone, though, where a couple of things that aren't done properly can flip it to a yellow.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for Karen to ever enter that zone.
Right.
I think she has enough money. She has enough understood, even if it changes a little bit as her life evolves as a widow. She's going to be fine. I would like to see her exercise a couple of these strategies that we mentioned, I think she's going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, agreed. Taxes are another one, being a single filer now. So there's just all sorts of things that you got to obviously double check. So, one thing we know in life, right, is that's going to happen is death and taxes is what everyone says. So make sure, in your situation that you understand what could happen to your potential spouse, or if you're already a widow, what are some things that you could be looking at? Head over to Rise in Retirement. Tons of resources over there for you. Other than that, we'll see you next time here on Rise in Retirement.